And we shall be continuing as people sort of smoothly flow back in. And we are continuing with a climate panel where I'm looking forward to hearing some hot takes on inconvenient truths. Which would be funny, but we fucked it up. And unfortunately, games, the games industry is not really, we are not exempt from this particular disaster. It's not even a crisis anymore, it's a disaster. But then again, maybe fortunately, we can do something about it as individuals, as companies, as an industry. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So let's start with a round of introductions. Who are you guys? And why are you here?
Should I start?
Let's go.
All right. Hi, everybody. Great to be here this afternoon talking about, like Tim said, super important topic. I'm Heini, Kaihu, and I currently work at Rovio as a Chief Sustainability Officer. I've been in the games industry for quite some time, probably 20-ish years also myself, and doing a lot of things. And I think that it was super funny starting with actually Lasse in the morning talking about the early games. The first game that I actually made was a text message game. So that's how it started. And been heading a studio at Rovio. Before that, worked at Sulake, running the Habbo Hotel. So a lot of things, and now doing something that really kind of like combines something that is very dear to me, and then both the games industry, obviously, and games, and then the sustainability and environment and everything that is, comes with that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jani. I've been in the game industry for maybe 2 decades now, but that's not really why I'm here. So yes, there's an indie company. Yes, we make games, but there's actually a game industry and a game developer associations initiative called Pelimetsä. Let's say that that's kind of a funnel for the goodwill and the sort of hopes of what we can accomplish together. And I'm here representing that initiative and seeing what we can do.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria and I founded the Games Forest Club. And it's a global climate protection club for the games industry, from the games industry. And yeah, I really believe that the games industry can make a change in conquering the climate change, and that's why I founded it. And we work with many partners to make it happen. So I'm really happy to be here and to have this discussion with you.
Perfect. So we have a couple of different angles here from sort of big company / indie company, and also the initiative that you're leading, and then obviously at Game First Club. And let's just get the big question out of the way. Why? Why are we talking about this here? Like climate, but we make games. What's our role in this?
I could start by saying that, because we just need to do it, not as a games industry, but as a person that lives and consumes the earth. I think that's definitely one thing. But then when we look at our ability to actually impact people and impact their behavior, I think that we do have the responsibility to also really utilize and benefit that opportunity.
I'd like to say that we've had the conversation about like what we should do and what we should compensate, and let's set the baseline right here from the start. Like game development is not just office work where you're carbon impact is your travel, your laptop or desktop, and your office cost. Like that's peanut. If we really want to be a computer game or mobile game developer and you want to compensate for your impact, your negative environmental impact in the world, then that conversation has already been had. There's no negotiating about the fact that we should compensate, we must compensate for the impact on server side and the carbon emissions of the players. Like that's, if you want to be carbon negative, then that's your responsibility right there.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like it's very important that all the companies take responsibility, like every company should, and also within other industries. But I really believe that the games industry as such has so much power, because like the entertainment industry in general and games, they are like one of the biggest industries when it comes to like revenues. And if like besides that, it's also they have this reach of over 3 billion players. And yeah, like we definitely should use that if we want to tackle a global problem like climate change. And if we also think in terms of like the network which the games industry has, it's like an international network, and the people who are working there, like you guys, basically, you think globally, and you are creative, so you, yeah, can change with that power the minds of other people in a sense that you can, yeah, raise awareness and put, yeah, a lot of effort and resources also in something which, yeah, will change our future and is already changing our future.
Yeah, and obviously, as people say, you can't really change what you don't measure. So step one, measure. I'm assuming you guys have already done a bunch of due diligence on that. First of all, how do you do it? Second of all, any interesting learnings from any of that? Maybe starting from Rovio?
Well, yeah, and I think that it actually ties into what Jani just said, that, you know, when it's easy to kind of like think that, okay, so let's compensate for the office and laptops, but actually that's peanuts. And when we have started, or we have been measuring over the years, and then every year taken kind of like a more kind of like granular look at the things. And now what we did last year is that we basically measured and now also compensated our whole footprint. So meaning the scope 1 and 2 in the calculation terms, you know, the exactly office, commuting, also counting in remote work, then you know, everything that has to do purchases, electricity that we use in the office and so forth, but also now the scope 3, which is basically what we call or what could be kind of like said that things that are out of our kind of like immediate control. So just calculating what is the energy consumption and emissions from that when players are playing our games. So you know, charging devices to play games, and also in our case when they watch, for example, YouTube videos of our content. And the surprise, I don't think that it wasn't kind of like a massive surprise for those that already were kind of like into modeling and calculating that beforehand. But I think that we've had really interesting conversations with colleagues when we've been sharing that actually 95% of our emissions are actually from that scope 3. So players playing our games and watching the videos. And that I think that like validates why it is super important to not only stop at office computers, commute and things like that, but look at the whole scope.
And before you go, I mean, you guys were just like nodding sagely, but 95%,
95%.
that is a lot.
That's massive, and I think that it's like and we are like we were also scratching our heads that okay, so how do we start actually calculating that? And I think that there are kind of like no standards per se yet, but we are actually working for the with Playing for the Planet as well as also games to help all the companies, all the gaming companies, to be able to actually estimate that emissions and the energy consumption that comes from actually playing the games.
Yeah, nice. And taking that into account for a small company or smaller company, just being able to do that math and that estimation sounds hard. And I'm guessing you guys have been trying to figure out how to make it easier. So maybe Maria, how do you approach
I
this?
think it's like so basically it is a hard question, but because I know Jani's looking into it more into detail, maybe you go.
Okay, thanks. So my answer would be mostly directed toward Finnish game companies, not because not to exclude anyone else. It's just that we'll try to do things right here, and then once it's working, we'll be more than happy to share with everyone, like, this is how we do it, this is how you can do it. Pelimetsä is definitely doing things kind of ground up on the keep it simple principle. So we are taking the NeoGames model, and the plan is to simplify it down to CFO level. So anything as simple as a board CFO can just open it, input a couple of numbers, get back one number, and use that number to compensate or balance their impact. So there will be a web calculator based on a simplified, streamlined model from the NeoGames side of things. This is our current plan. The model, the calculations, they will be transparent. So any criticism, any guidance on the problems, those will be taken into account, and changes will be made as necessary. But still, as simple as possible, a model for everyone, put their numbers in, get your number out, and then move forward with the carbon side of it.
All right, then the C-level monkey in myself likes the idea of like a number in, number out. Cool, I can do that.
That's the goal.
But I do think that that's actually like a super interesting point that for us to actually get the people on board, we also must make this easy. And I think that that's one of the key things, and I think that that's what Jani and the NeoGames are doing. I think that that's super important.
Yeah, I want to say that like this all is like I'm here as a worker ant for getting this thing done. This is by the game industry for the game industry. So whatever we achieve, this is us doing it and getting it done with the goal of making it as easy as possible for everyone to do it. So the thanks goes to pelin kehittäjät once it's done, not before.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the things I hear super often is, as like the first question, if I say that, hey, our company is doing compensation or whatever, is to, okay, why do you trust it? How do you know that effect is being had, etc., etc.? I was on Twitter and they told me that you can't trust anything. So how do you unpick that conversation? Where do you even start? Maybe Maria?
So yeah, this is great because this is what I also wanted to talk about, because of course it's very good if you know your emissions and if you have the number, but like it's also important where do you invest your money and like where do you like what projects do you choose to compensate or reduce your footprint, because the market is still very young when it comes to that. So that's why we developed a system to vet all these different projects and offer the different companies ways to like reduce their carbon footprint, but also invest into forest protection and biodiversity besides that, because I think it's important that we keep also in mind that it's not just about the carbon, but about the biodiversity as well. So to be able to get the right project, I think it's very important to have a solution for that as well, because it can cost a lot of time and also reputation if you do that wrong, because then you spend a lot of money, but then it does not have any effect.
And then perhaps to comment on that, I think that exactly like looking at the forest, either protection or conservation, biodiversity, I think that they all speak to many of us. But then you can also like usually the kind of like the verified projects also need to comply to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And then if your company is, for example, advancing something in the gender diversity or education or an area like that, you can actually take that into account in those projects that you select to compensate with.
Yeah, that's what.
Go ahead.
I think it's important right now to really get everyone on board and also offer different possibilities to get involved, like for small and for big companies, because like right now is the time to raise the awareness and of course to build sources to act upon it properly. I think like you do, like with the CO2 counter, but like the first step is like really to create this kind of global awareness and movement. And it helps to measure, but also to just get involved. I think.
I'd like to say that for Pelimetsa, there's of course been a lot of looking around and like what is the target? What is the project that we recommend for all of this? And this has been from the start. This has been a joint initiative with Luonnonperintösäätiö. So all the money that has gone into the Pelimetsä initiative, it's gone straight to their activities, and basically their promise and their trust is built on the fact that all donations are used directly to protect Finnish old growth forests. So, for us, this seems to be the best possible thing we can do in Finland. Like, not only do you protect forests from being cut down, which means that all the carbon stored in the tree trunks remains there, all the CO2 in the forest floor remains undisturbed, and all the habitat for different species of flora and fauna remain undisturbed as well. So you get kind of all the benefits with a single activity.
Yeah, and it helps with the can I trust this point when you can literally drive up and walk in the protected area and look at the plaque. There's a literal thing in there saying, yep, you found it. Protected by the games industry, which is very cool, and you guys should participate. Also, by the way, the QA app just opened up, so if you want to inject some questions here, you can try, and I might put them in. So we sort of on abstract terms here talked about, oh, this is something you should do, and man, there's a large impact, and da da da. What does this cost? Like, let's put this in some kind of a frame. Games are expensive to make. My CFO brain is telling me, nah, I don't have any money for anybody. But so what's the scope?
No, and I think that's the the funny or in a way also sad part, but also like I would say I see it as an opportunity. It's not that expensive actually. I think that not going into numbers, but when you actually kind of like for example, look at how much money we are making with games, and then thinking that okay, a small fraction, if I take from that and make sure that I can sleep at night. I think that amount of money is very, very reasonable, and even from the kind of like CFO point of view should be.
Yeah, for me, when I was looking at the, I mean, this is still a complex answer in the way that if you're a PC developer, it's certainly more a different scenario from a mobile game developer and so forth. So I'd say that for any company, just run any calculator you find right now online to see how your business maps into it. So when talking about like major mobile companies, then like and please correct me if I'm wrong, but an annual carbon compensation would be worth your less than like a day or a week of your marketing costs.
Easily, and I think that also there is, and we talked about it being the right thing to do. I think that these topics are more and more something that actually do bring value to your company. Whether it is kind of like something that the employees are actually thinking that we should act in responsible way. I think that's definitely a thing that I see at the moment. Whether it is something that if not yet at the moment, players will start looking into it, but then at least from from a public company point of view, something that the investors are interested in. So it is like there is kind of like a kind of like bigger value also in this, but ultimately, obviously, a right thing to do.
For the initial, like when this calculator eventually appears for Pelimetsä, the current number I have to use for the CO2 ton equivalence is 70 euros. So if you run any calculation, you can do that for now, like in the context of Pelimetsä. However, if you choose other compensation targets, Maria, you can probably enlighten us on like the range of.
Yeah, actually we have another project where you pay 20 euros per ton. But like again, it depends on where you want to invest in, because like for us it was important to as we think in a global context, to give the companies the opportunity to invest in projects all over the globe and match it with their target group. So if they have like players sitting somewhere else, that they can compensate there or support a project there. But the Games Forest Club is not just about compensation. It's really about getting involved and also about biodiversity, in a sense that we also wanted to give everyone the possibility to get on board right away. So like with us, like companies can become a member right away and start to engage their employees and their community with like certain in-game donation activities or stuff like that. So like you don't need to calculate and then do something. You can start like right away. And then of course we also help the companies to calculate and to measure their footprint. But for us, it was important to get everyone on board and to give everyone like a solution, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting detail. Have you, anecdotally, and I fully understand if this hasn't been like properly tried at scale yet, but have you heard any stories of sort of exposing that carbon footprint problem directly to the players and sort of allowing them to be part of the solution? That's more of a comms question, I guess, a marketing question, but.
Actually, not yet in a sense, because it's really, really hard to calculate or to give someone the right feedback, because there is always the question like, what do you count in? And we have suggestions. Actually, there is another Finnish company. They have they offer examples of how much carbon you spend when you're playing or when you are streaming something. So something like that we communicate to the players before, but in general, it's very important to raise awareness about the topic before, like, let's say, bombarding the user with numbers. And I'm a big fan of numbers, but in a sense, I would say this might be like a second step when we really know what we are talking about, instead of just like doing it now. Yeah, please.
I just realized, I mean, please, behold, I am now taking the industry's largest shotgun and pointing it at my feet. So behold, for the hot take. Their platforms are taking 30%. What if they were actually responsible for using that for compensating for...
Yeah, wait, let me call Team Apple.
No, but really, there's a limited number of platforms, and they actually do have fairly good analytics about how their devices are used. So the conversation about where the blame lies and whose responsibility compensation actually is. Like, we're very proactive right now, saying that developers are the one to compensate, and yes, I agree with that. But however, the gross revenue is actually split between platform and developer. So let's see what kind of altruism and proactivity we can get from the side of large distribution platforms. This problem does concern them as well.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's something to think about. And I'll just pivot to some of the questions coming in. Thanks for those. And sort of staying on the numbers topic, which we're circulating around this. So one question that you're sort of, do you want to have these simple tools for CFOs and other number challenged people to calculate the impact? But is this a topic that, based on your guys' experience, that you see CFOs and such sort of increasingly being actually interested in? That is this a tool we're making because there's already interest, or is it sort of the other way around?
I would say that they are interested, and like said, I think that also the employees are increasingly interested. I think that and even if it is just for that, I think the CFO should be also interested in. But I think that at least I feel that that this is something that is not just a our issue or the the leadership issue or the employee issue. I think that it's something that we kind of like, when we see it every day, it is not just in the work that we do, but it's also there. So it's easy to kind of like say that, yes, this is of interest for all of us, and including CFOs.
Yeah, and I guess it's also for you guys that when you interact with somebody from a games company, like who is it? Who are the people who are interested? There
are more and more companies interested in it, and it's the thing, they want an easy solution, because like right now, if you run a whole test, it can cost up to like, I don't know, for a big company, 30, 45,000, even if you do like a proper estimation, which goes into detail. And especially like for small companies, they cannot, or they don't want to afford it right now, and I can totally understand that. So yeah, having a nice solution for that would be great, especially for the games industry, because yeah.
Yeah. On my part, I'd say I don't care what the reason is for someone to do the right thing, like be it concern or a gun on the forehead. But as long as when you do the right thing, it's simple as painless as possible so that it gets done, that's when the goal is reached.
Yeah, fair enough. And so tying into another question, so should I be an employee in a company? Who do I approach about this? Maybe how do I approach that topic if I'm a concerned individual, but I'm not a decision maker? Any tips?
I would say that talk to any of the if it was us, probably we'd first see the question in Slack, like what are we doing for this topic in our company? So that might be one very quick solution. If you want to actually kind of like find out that is there somebody who knows more about the topic, then I'm sure that there is somebody in the leadership team that has been thinking about this. So do reach out there. And in some companies there are like teams such as us that are then your go-to people.
Yeah, for a small team, it's obviously just a coffee table discussion.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance that you're not the first person to think about this. So it's more about like actually starting that conversation, right?
Yeah.
I can just give a feedback on like, so usually all of our like members become a member because of different angles. Like there were people approaching HR, other people did it because of course, like external branding issues. And then there are others who really like care about nature. So depending, I think it really depends on the company culture as far as I can, see it from our members.
Yeah. So then here's something I was also kind of pondering myself, but it popped up from the audience, that what about compensation versus reduction, right? So how does this work? We kind of know how to compensate, sort of, but is it possible to reduce, or what does that even look like?
That's an excellent question, and I think that if you think of this whole area, it actually I think that the principle goes that you should first reduce as much as possible, and then compensate that is left, and you couldn't reduce. So that should be the starting point. And then, like said, there you can go to the nitty-gritties, looking at your, the offices, purchases, how often do you need to have new phones and laptops and whatnot. But then there are, and I think that this is kind of like something that is probably not as easy, but something that at least we are exploring at the moment, is that are there ways that we can actually make the games, make the products that they are not as consumption heavy, and
like, should we develop this in Electron?
So I think that's something that definitely we should be looking at. I think that we are like as a whole, like every time the processing power increases and we could actually be more energy efficient, we are greedy and take all that, we spend all that. So definitely there's an opportunity there. And I think that it actually is again something that has value in itself, because we would be then talking about actually in most likely also improve player experience. So
I would say that it doesn't. I mean, like, yes, in many ways. Like, if you can cut down on loading times, optimize on memory consumption, sure. But then, like, you frame this as a technical question, and then you see mobile devices like increasing their screen refresh rates to 120, and then the expectation starts coming like, yes, I need my phone to run this game at 120 with ultra quality, and I mean, as a player, you want that, and then how do you reconcile that is a really, really good question.
But I think that it also depends on the game that you're making, doesn't it? Like if you even if you kind of like if you can do it, yes, and you think that it brings value to your game, then why not? I think that there's an argument for that as well. But then, is it like that if you're creating a casual mobile game, is all of that needed? Is it really also what your players are looking for? I think that's the one question to kind of like, or angle to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, there are certainly a lot of technical concerns and workarounds to, like, if there's nothing happening on your screen, then do you really need to refresh the screen at 60 frames per second? That would be maybe one thing to look at.
But this is actually great, like this kind of discussion, right? Because I think this is what we need to talk about, like, and get like an international like view on, in a sense that we share our knowledge and like develop, or like if someone finds a way like to have a more sustainable code or a more sustainable game design, that we need to share that to make the change happen. And definitely I think we should look and focus more on reduction than just say, now I compensated, I'm carbon neutral, my product is, because this is kind of a lie, like even like the stamps, like the carbon neutral stamps, which we also see on other products. Just wanted to say that reduction is the way to go.
Reduce first and compensate what you cannot. Of course.
Yeah, and there's one question kind of ties into this, that pointing out that, say, mobile devices are running at what, like 5 watts or something of electricity, probably less in actual normal use, and dedicated gaming PCs and consoles are a lot more, hundreds of times more, obviously. So then in that sphere, optimization matters a lot more. So the question is framed into, should mobile games companies even care at this point when the base device is so efficient, but then the scale is a lot different, right? Like you have 100 million players instead of tens of thousands.
Yeah, those watts do add up at those scale.
Yeah, and we should all care. I think that's the problem, that we should not just say, oh, they need more energy, so they should do something first, and we can chill. Like it's important that we all do something now.
And sort of pivoting back to earlier on this whole sort of stakeholders who are interested. So you mentioned that you find that company staff are interested. Me as an employee, I want to be in a company that's, on the side of the good. Maybe players can be interested, can be motivated, obviously. And you mentioned that investors might be motivated and interested in this case because you're a public company. Question is, why? What's the investor angle in this case, as far as you can tell?
That's a good question, and perhaps that even kind of like investors could be better prepared to answer this. But I do think that again, kind of like the trend of the sustainability, and the whole kind of like, the ESG measurements in investing, they are becoming more and more a norm. So that's also what the investors are looking at. I think that there's like you could think that there's kind of like the bigger kind of like our portfolio type of in investors that for them it is just almost like a checkbox thing. But then there's obviously the more kind of like boutique investors, and then are looking at more and more kind of like things that what is this company, what are they doing, how they are doing things, and in that case it can also matter.
Yeah, and it's sort of anecdotal from my part, but it really reminds me back in the day about investing into, say, weapons, tobacco, something like that. And it was actually a thing for people to reach out to the families of the investors. So the families would protest and say, no, we will not allow you to use the family money on something unethical. So I feel like it's anecdotal, but it's happened before. People do have, even investors are people, and they have feelings. Would you know it?
So sorry, like one point on that, but like investors are also like, at least the one who I talk to, it's also like a revenue question in the future. Because if you think of employees and like internal and external branding, it will be a very important topic in the next few years. And investors know that, like, there are so many companies already like calculating how much money they will spend on climate change. And in terms of that, it's not just like a nice plus for the soul. It's definitely also a money question.
Definitely.
Cool. So sort of let's start to wrap this up a little bit, turning into actionable takeaways. Somebody's interested in the audience, resources, tips, what to do next. What would you recommend? Hard.
Okay. The Pelimetsa calculator is not done yet. It's work in progress. But if you are concerned, you want to compensate for your environmental effects in Finland, that has been possible for a couple of years now. The Pelimetsa campaign is active on Luonnonperintösäätiö. They have an account number and the reference number that you can use to just donate money to the Pelimetsa campaign, and that's used to protect forests. And if you right now need to use some method for estimating the CO2 impact of your company, then use any of the ones available. It's better than nothing, and possibly even accurate. So don't wait for us to solve that problem. If you really feel like you want to do something now, you can.
Yeah, just visit our website and become part of the club. Basically, like with us, you can get involved into different events and actions where you can engage your employees and players, but also you can reduce your carbon footprint or do something for biodiversity. We have like different projects for everyone. So yeah, and Pelimetsa is also one of our associates. So yeah, just check it out, talk to me.
And what is the name of the website?
gamesforest.club.
And then actually, if you are kind of like, if you are thinking that, how could I get this started in my own company or in our company, and you want kind of like any tips or advice on the climate and environment, what kind of campaigns can we, for example, do in our games, or then just the area of sustainability, feel free to also reach out to me directly. So happy to give any tips that I can
Yeah, perfect. So, as a sort of final chance to say something that you'll regret forever, what pisses you off the most about sort of the state of the conversation at the moment? What's annoying you at the moment? Jani, you look like you've got
You go.
Why can't somebody else do it? What pisses me off the most? Well, let's put it this way. What pisses me off the most is that the games industry is the most profitable industry on the planet, and this is the state of our conversation. We should have fixed this a decade ago. We should be the most proactive, creative, technologically capable breed on the planet. Here we are, waiting for a website.
Yeah, where's the website, Jani?
Yeah, but I mean, better late than never, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like for me, it's like let's go now. Like we don't like even need to wait for the website.
Yes.
We can just invest, do something, get involved. Like yeah, but we always talk about the bad things instead of doing. And yeah, let's go.
Yes, let's that. Maybe let me shift that around. Like it was said already once. Let me say it again. Like for a big company, successful games company, like even if you pick the most expensive way of compensating for your environmental impact, that's still going to be a fraction of your profits. Like just do it right, and do it right now.
Anything to add?
I think that they said it all. I think that exactly that. We may kind of like be a bit behind, but it doesn't mean that we actually couldn't catch the others if we start acting now.
There you go. So to recap, it's important. It's not a question of if, it's a question of you must. And starts with just have that conversation with your colleagues, with our wonderful panel guests later tonight. And there are tools. It's easy. It's cheap. Just fucking do it. All right.
Yeah.
So an applause for the panel, please.